Hello, everyone. So we're going to wait for a few seconds before we start our webinar. I think we're good to go. So good afternoon, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be with you today. And welcome to our series of the top 4 use cases, how to supercharge your business with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Our second webinar and our first use case from the top 4 is about data migration to the cloud. And today I have with me Ellie and Camilla and Satish from our partner organization Databricks, who will be leading today's webinar. In our agenda, we have the following topics. We'll do a quick intro, and then our colleagues will share with you why it is important or why it is beneficial to migrate, and what is the value, and they will also explore a number of use cases as well. So on the intro, so let me start with DataSentics quickly before I hand over to our colleagues from Databricks. We are an AI product studio, and our aim goal is to make data science and machine learning to have a real impact on organizations. We have more than 100 plus data scientists as well as data science engineers. Our organization is distributed into 5 different tribes, and the one that is key and important for today's webinar and the following number of webinars is the PX one. It's the personalization for banking and insurance, as well as the tech scale, which helps the enterprises to adopt, expand, and operate the AI tech stack, and then innovate, which is driving the innovation across the entire organization. Our success wouldn't be real without our cloud partners, such as Microsoft Azure, AWS, and our key partner, Databricks. And last year, we have received a Rising Star Award from Deloitte as one of the fastest growing companies in Central Europe in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And without any further ado, let me hand over to our colleagues from Databricks, who will guide you through the rest of the webinar. Thank you, and I wish you enjoy the webinar with us.
Thanks for that introduction, Bob. Really happy to be here today, working with DataSentics, one of our great partners in Europe. And just a little bit about Databricks for anybody who didn't join the initial taster webinar. We are the data and AI company. We provide a unified analytics platform. That analytics platform is a multi-cloud solution. So it works on AWS, GCP, and Azure. And we work with enterprises and corporates across all industries, just as DataSentics do. But a lot of the organizations that we're working on currently regarding their AI aspirations and use cases are in the financial services sector. So financial services is our fastest growing sector at Databricks. And I have a slight belief that the reason for that is a lot of the organizations that you see on this deck who aren't neobanks or born in the cloud, new fintechs, have perhaps taken longer to adopt public cloud. So large, pedigreed, heritaged financial services organizations have had a long legacy of technology. And they also have a huge number of regulatory compliance and governance hoops that they need to follow. So if a FS organization wants to take advantage of cloud infrastructure, quite often they need to work with their own internal infosec and architecture teams, and also work with the regulators in order to ensure that what they're doing meets all of their overarching compliance. As such, when Databricks started back in 2012, the financial sector was the slowest to adopt Databricks. And part of the reason for that was many of these organizations didn't yet have data in public cloud. So today we're going to talk about what that enables you to do, and also how you can leverage public cloud and Databricks on a use case by use case basis to deliver business value back to your organization, whilst still being realistic. We realize that it's Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to migrate all of your data if you have a significant on-premise footprint to public cloud overnight. I'm working with organizations who have been partway through specific data set migrations for 6, 12, 18 months. And what we really want people to understand is a use case by use case or business value, business centric approach. It is the key to unlocking this. I was listening to two financial organizations last week at a panel event talking around that coexisting and using public cloud in order to really enable them to innovate on data sets that were locked away, where they weren't able to get that innovation, but where the existing on-prem platform was highly tuned, price performance, reliable, and doing a great job, was a key challenge, and where they were focusing their time. So hopefully during today's session, we'll cover that off. We're going to cover a few different technology stacks and where public cloud fits. And I think the reason many people will have joined is to listen to our colleague Satish, who is going to talk specifically to SAS migrations, so and how we work with SAS. So just to kind of give you a further background regarding Databricks and what our founders believed in when they set up the company. And the key pillars of Databricks are open source, multi-cloud, and big data and AI. And that all of these are going to be big bets and are going to be really important to the enterprise going forward. And I think these big bets have paid off, and really are all showing a forward trajectory currently. However, the reality for most enterprises today is that there are silos of data across the organization, across systems that have developed and evolved over time. And that siloed technology stack has resulted in complicated data architectures that aren't necessarily fit for the organization going forward, and in turn are having an impact onto the teams that need to deliver on that data. So while we get involved, we often find that there's been significant investment from organizations in both their data and the teams around that, be that data science, data engineering, but that those teams have been forced into a siloed world where they can't collaborate because they're each working on a slightly different technology stack with a slightly different remit. And as a result, they may be delivering very similar insights, but with a slight difference in data sources, data stack. And as a result, that customer may be presenting two different versions of the truth to senior leadership and to management when they're being asked for insights. So where we see this, it means that legacy on-premise technologies are causing problems and preventing companies from keeping up when it comes to big data, analytics, and insights. What we see in some of these, and we're going to touch on them throughout today, is Hadoop, EDW, and SAS costs rising exponentially, very often on licensing agreements that are perhaps those that you would have seen historically and are not built around a consumption model that you would get if you were leveraging the cloud. And that as a result of all of this, the business agility is being hamstrung, and that the innovation that can be driven from machine learning and data science is effectively being slowed. So the response to that from Databricks and other organizations such as ourselves has been to look at where these technologies are doing well, what they're doing well, and what they're delivering, and where we can take the best elements from each in order to give a more overarching approach. And that has led to the Lakehouse. So over time, the technologies I've mentioned, you may have had data lakes, data warehouses. We have taken the best of both elements. So not just structured data, but semi-structured and unstructured data, not just for BI and SQL analytics, but also for machine learning, data science, AI use cases, pulled them together into a lakehouse, which has a prerequisite of being on public cloud. And that has all of the governance, security, and corporate requirements that historically a data warehouse may have had, and it enables you to really deliver those insights. We've got many customers today working with us on Lakehouse architectures, and where we work most closely with them is where they're looking at delivering a specific use case or a set of use cases, and we make sure that the data is available within that construct for them to do that. Over the next of the series of this session, we're going to be looking at some of those use cases, including personalization, natural language processing, predictive analytics, and fraud. So hopefully you're going to sign up to those and we can go through them. Other key areas that have been a very hot topic with many of our customers over the last few months has been ESG. So ESG relies on many different data sources, and has with COP26 around the corner, many organizations, if they're in the financial services space, may be looking at their investment portfolio, and they want to understand the ESG credentials of the organizations in their investments. So this allows them to do that. So that's an example of using these different data formats in order to deliver that back to the business. Equally, you may be an organization that you yourself are concerned about your ESG credentials, and you want to look at your supply chain. And so again, that would enable you to do that. So the other piece I wanted to kind of cover off is that I mentioned that there is a prerequisite for Lakehouse and for us delivering all of these insights to being on the cloud. So I think we have a poll, hopefully, Jan, if you can be my glamorous assistant, to understand, of those of you attending today, what percentage of your data and data stack is currently on cloud? Oh, apologies. We have a different poll. Sorry, guys. Apologies. I think I missed this. It should have been earlier. When we were looking at those historic data sets, what we would like to understand is from amongst the audience, which do you sit in? Have you got an enterprise data warehouse? Is that already perhaps already in the cloud? Is it on-prem? Are you already using Hadoop and considering a move from Hadoop or Cloudera? Or have you got SAS infrastructure that you're currently looking to move across? So currently it looks like we've got a lot of Hadoop users in the audience. We tend to find this a lot, that organizations have large Hadoop instances that they're probably already delivering data initiatives, be it in the fraud space or customer 360. It's interesting. I was expecting that the poll has shown there aren't any real SAS users in the audience. Usually we see a coexistence, which includes SAS. So if you're a SAS based organization, don't be shy. Please do respond. So I think data warehousing and other are nudging it. So if you do have other technologies and you're interested in some of the Databricks approaches to those migrations, please feel free to write in the chat what other technologies you're utilizing so that we can try and give you an overview and some insight there as well. So that's great insight. And Jan, just if we can move to the second poll, I'd love to get people's view on how far along the data migration to public cloud organizations are, if that's possible, or I can. So to understand whether you're early on your journey or whether you have already fully migrated, it would be great to understand whether or not you're already a cloud native user or using enterprise data warehouses such as Snowflake in public cloud, whether you've got a mixture of on-prem and cloud. I had a very interesting conversation with a large UK bank week before last around their mainframe, which is on site, on-prem, and which they have a huge amount of expertise in with their internal resources. And they don't want to turn off that mainframe. I think we've all listened to conversations around, oh, we want to migrate around our mainframe, the mainframe's dead, etc., etc. They came at it from the perspective that, no, they want to utilize that asset that they've already highly tuned and they have the expertise in, but they want to partner with an organization who can deliver insights on that using the scalability and innovation that is available via public cloud. So a lot of the architectures that we work on are hybrid, and that's good because that's the most common response here. So we've got 35% of the audience saying that you have a hybrid of on-prem and on-prem and cloud infrastructure. So where we see customers really excel is by making sure that they have the right data in the right places. So we're going to talk to you about how you determine which the priorities are for migrating to cloud. So I don't know if anybody hasn't responded, but if there are any further responses, I think The very interesting take here is nobody has responded saying that you're multi-cloud. So there are a few customers that we have now that are multi-cloud, and that's being driven by two particular areas. One is compliance. So the European Banking Authority have suggested that companies need to be able to show their ability to move between clouds and exit strategies. And also some organizations feel that different clouds give them different benefits. Equally, I know it's sometimes a negotiation tactic in terms of if you have a multi-cloud strategy, you may be able to leverage better price points from all of those clouds. So that's also an interesting take. I think everybody is aware of the benefits of cloud, and that's really the elasticity and the scale that it can give you. And from a Databricks perspective, where we see customers doing big data initiatives, a lot of those data sets are very, very large, particularly where you're talking fraud, cyber. You're talking about hundreds of petabyte scale of data, and therefore you really need something that can burst at the point where you need it. You don't want to have a resource constraint at the point where that use case really needs the boost. Also, consumption models and the ability to turn off workloads if you're not using them is also really key. Databricks have what we determine interactive jobs clusters, et cetera. So we work with clients in order to ensure that your use cases are working at the right times for you, and you're only being charged based on a consumption model when they're being used. The other key benefit that I think is sometimes overlooked, particularly with the journey and compliance journey that you go through in order to get the certification from InfoSec, security compliance, in order to use public cloud, is that actually by utilizing those cloud organizations, you're buying into a best of breed from a security perspective, so you can leverage that. And actually, it's something that you take advantage of. I think we've probably touched on most of these areas. The fact that fully cloud enabled from an open source perspective, and how you can use the cloud, and how that moves you away from the technical debt you may have from your on-prem. We've also talked through most of these areas, the fact that it's price performant, and I think the other key pieces to the workload by workload, and therefore not doing a whole host replace of a whole technology stack, but instead cherry picking or augmenting particular areas in order to deliver on your strategy. We also see ETL being a key area that cloud enables. So, and I know Satish has got some work around that. Typically, kind of from a data warehouse perspective, there are many benefits to using Databricks. And we have done benchmarking, and so have third parties. So the Barcelona Supercompute have done benchmarking of Databricks against other cloud data warehouses. And typically we see 3 to 5 times better cost performance for Databricks compared to those data warehouse technologies. So again, really compelling. Most of the other areas I think we've covered. And so from a Hadoop perspective, I know many of you have just responded saying that you have Hadoop. The way we tend to review our organization's Hadoop estates is to understand what your as-is instances are, how many nodes your Hadoop estate is, how many people support that, and where you are in your life cycle with Cloudera. And as such, we're able to build you a business value proposition, so effectively a business case that you can take internally. And it will look at your infrastructure savings, your productivity gains, and also the business value and innovation that Databricks can enable you over and above what a traditional Hadoop solution would, in order to drive value back to your business. And we will give you that business case. There are quite a number of organizations we've done this for. So these are a few key ones from an EMEA perspective, despite the fact that they're global. Unilever, T-Mobile, H&M, all have done very large Hadoop migrations with Databricks. I won't go into the full details of this banking client, but we had a large banking client in North America who had a very extensive Hadoop instance that wasn't performant and wasn't delivering what they needed the business to. They had a requirement from a use case perspective to deliver that value, and they had a backlog of use cases that they wanted to work with Databricks on prioritizing and unlocking that value. So we did a full assessment of their current Hadoop environment, what that was costing them, what the performance of it was, and how it was preventing some of the use cases from being delivered. Also, how the team were spending their time, and there was a lot of firefighting, and a lot of keeping the lights on. So we then created a target architecture based on Databricks that really delivered cost savings and also delivered huge productivity gains for those data teams. The other interesting insight we've seen on a couple of clients is by moving from some of these technologies to Databricks and really investing in your teams, providing training and enablement on Databricks, it actually means your teams will get certified in a newer technology and will avoid some of the challenges they have in their day-to-day work. And as a result, in some assessments we've done with clients, we've seen on average a 5-month increase in their employees' tenure with the organization. So it breeds increased loyalty and also reduces employee churn rate. These are some of the stats that were delivered with that banking client. So the key insight really was the amount of infrastructure that we could knock out of the solution and the cost of that infrastructure, along with the number of dedicated personnel who were looking after the infrastructure and keeping the lights on day to day, who could move across to do more forward-thinking functions and deliver more on the project backlog, et cetera, et cetera. So we went from $46 million of spend to $6.3 million of spend, and a staff of 20 just concentrating on the Hadoop estate to 3. So huge productivity gains whilst not reducing any performance and delivering on that backlog of use cases. So I'll now hand over to Satish, who's going to talk more around SAS, which is the other key technology stack that we're seeing a lot of interest from their user community.
Hey, thanks, Ellie. Hi, everyone. So yeah, let's double click a bit into SAS migrations and what we are seeing from the field. So again, if you look at SAS, SAS has been a de facto software stack for analytics for over years, right? And in the process, SAS has been leveraged for doing a lot of data management or data processing related workloads. And SAS has a very rich set of solutions offered for different verticals. But there are certain workloads, mainly on the data management and data processing, that SAS is not may not be a good candidate. And let's talk a bit about those workloads, how solutions in the cloud and how offerings from Databricks are helping the customers in order to get the value that they're expecting, right? So likewise, migrating SaaS workloads to the cloud is not easy. It's very challenging for various reasons. If you take any SaaS deployment, you take any customer site, what we are seeing is SaaS is being used by different teams across the organization, and the owners lack that oversight of how SaaS is being used. So even if you consider migrating any workloads, the biggest challenging thing is to understand how it's being used and where there is which teams are wanting to move, right? And the second one is SaaS workloads are very diverse, and then they're really complex to migrate to the cloud if you want to do it manually. And SAS over the years has optimized and built certain capabilities which are very proprietary. And if you have to re-engineer that, it would tend to be very costly. And not all SaaS related workloads have an alternative in the cloud, and that complicates things much further. So the key thing becomes, what type of workloads are the candidates. So you need to have a strategy in approaching this challenge, and you need to be supported with the right kind of skill sets. Folks who understand both SaaS and also folks who have a good understanding on the cloud, and also think about the volume of SaaS workloads, right? It's like thousands of ETL jobs, thousands of models that organizations use. So if you have to do it manually, it's really challenging. So you have to rely on certain accelerators. And what does your target state look like? If you take these pieces, and can you put each single piece in different services on the cloud, or is there a one integrated platform? So if you can find one integrated platform, that's a big differentiator for making your migration successful. So now let's go in and see what options are available, right? Let's take Databricks, for example. The first thing customers do is, okay, I have these different workloads, and what options do I have on the cloud? For example, data science and machine learning, right? So Databricks ML Runtime and ML Flow does offer a rich set of machine learning packages for users to use for their modeling requirements. There's ML Flow that handles end-to-end model lifecycle, and citizen data scientists getting their hands on data science using AutoML. And nowadays you have Feature Store available, which has like an extension to your data science lifecycle, right? And ETL and SQL, and the same thing that you do using SAS can be efficiently done with a highly tuned Spark engine. Spark, we've seen notable success using using Apache Spark for all your ETL and large scale compute needs. And at the same time, you want to have this system to be extensible, to be able to connect to different source systems. So Spark offers a rich set of connectors to pull data from any different data source, and also govern all your data and ETL pipelines using Delta Live tables. So likewise, whether it is exploratory analysis or real-time event stream processing, or having more optimized compute in the cloud, or even industry specific accelerators, Databricks does provide. But is that enough to migrate to migrate SaaS workloads? Maybe not. Again, that's where you need to think about, what is that you want to migrate, and what options do you have in the cloud, right? Now, again, if you look at Databricks, all these are offered in the as an unified platform powered by the Lakehouse architecture. Likewise, because like I said, it's very important for you to understand what is the risk involved in migrating these workloads, and do we have one platform that simplifies the work for me? And Databricks has been making a lot of moves in trying to solve different areas for the customers, because you migrate one workload, but there's a question about, what about my other workloads, and how can I support our customers, right? So if you see recently Databricks acquired 8080 Labs, which is again a point-and-click interface to work with your data in the Lakehouse. So you're accumulating this data to Lakehouse. You're getting all your data from Hadoop, data from enterprise data warehouse, and you want to have your citizen data scientists or even business analysts who prefer to analyze the data with low code and no code interfaces. And the acquisition of 8080 Labs by Databricks is gives that flexibility for the users to be able to analyze the data without having to write any code, right? Now, if you look at the reasons why companies are optimizing their SaaS workloads with Databricks, you would find these three clear patterns. One, definitely from a growth perspective, so they want to open up the number of use cases that they are using from your data. Like for example, Etienne, when they tried to look at their existing data coming from different data sources and wanted to build a very robust rule framework, and they couldn't do it with the legacy analytics architecture that they have. So they were able to use Databricks to build validation frameworks, which basically allowed them to process larger data sets and also accelerate their time to market, right? At the same time, another major biopharma company tried to unlock their savings from the infrastructure side, because if you are stuck with on-prem appliances for managing your data and analytics, you are not able to scale. And then these appliances were error prone and hard to maintain, and cloud gave them a much better options in order to overcome those infrastructure savings. And another key pattern you would see is benefits on the risk side, right? So there's a lot of use cases that require processing large amounts of data, and especially to cater to the risk and compliance requirements internally. And we have worked with the largest federal health agency in the United States that was able to migrate their data and data processing and preparation workloads from using SAS to Databricks. And they were able to meet their growing needs because of all the power that's available that comes with the migration, right? Now, like I said, the biggest gains the companies are seeing are on the cost and performance. So here are some examples, like for example, applying a filter query on a 13 billion data set or a table using SAS 9 took like 7 hours compared to less than a minute in Databricks and optimized Apache Spark. Or even a financial asset firm, they were doing aggregations on 150 billion record table, and the job took like 3 hours versus it was reduced to 10 minutes using the in-memory execution and also utilizing the optimized auto-scaling capabilities. Again, so we've been seeing consistent performance in at least you were able to do things 3 times much faster using the open standards technologies offered by Databricks, right? Now, let's talk about how can we migrate certain workloads to Databricks or to the cloud, right? Like I said, not all workloads can be migrated, but you need to have a well-proven strategy in how to do it. So the way we do it is in Databricks as a team that it works with different cloud vendors. We work with different tooling partners and system integrators. Again, take an overall holistic approach to understand what the SaaS footprint is, right? You look at data, you look at the metadata, you look at the number of jobs and the types of jobs, types of tools being used, and the types of outcome that is expected, right? And then you have to identify what is the best offered by each cloud vendor. And additionally, thinking about the volume, there is so much if you want to migrate in terms of like the ETL code, right? So we have worked with some partners, tool partners who build tools focused on converting your SAS code to PySpark code or a Spark SQL code, right? And then not everything can be automated, of course. Like SAS programming is a much a powerful and flexible tool that users have used to build a lot of business logic and then business processes. So a portion of that has to be migrated manually. So we work with a lot of system integrators, your preferred system integrators, in order to move your workloads, right? And looking at the whole approach, right? So the first step involves definitely to assessing your SAS footprint. So like I said, there is SAS being used for various types of workloads. So you need to have a clear understanding of how it is used and what different types of SAS programming languages have been used and what's the dependency between the workloads, right? So we use automated tools to understand how SAS is being used, and also come up with the complexity of usage in order to support what's the best best workloads to migrate, right? And then based on that assessment, then you decide on what are the ones which you can replatform. Replatform or basically take a certain piece of code and then use certain tools to convert it into PySpark or Spark SQL code. So now these are low-hanging fruits because SAS has been leveraged for a lot of data engineering stuff, and which frankly should be done by much fast better tools in the cloud, just because of the scale. It allows you to access large amounts of data. And there are use cases which you need to use SAS for, like this. If you try to attempt migrating those use cases, you would definitely fail. And it's not just failing that failing in the sense that you're not able to migrate, but it's because you are making a wrong choice trying to re-engineer something, right? So for those use cases, our answer has been to come up with a hybrid model. So because we leverage SAS and Databricks connectors to connect these two applications and then get the best out of both worlds. I'll talk about how that works. But again, the decision to decide on what are the ones that are, can be re-platformed and the ones that are re-engineered has to consider a lot of factors, like, what are your business KPIs and what type of resources do you have, and the proportion of, SAS embedded use cases, and then the change management and the user training, because some of the use cases which are heavily embedded by SAS, in order to migrate would require overcoming a lot of user reluctance, right? So because especially when we work with insurance companies, what we've seen is from an internal and also an external compliance perspective, firms like to go with SAS because they've been using SAS for a long time, and then they have that comfort level, and regulators to approve usage of certain procedures. So really attempting to migrate those does not make sense. Now, here is our partnership with SAS. So we understand trying to attempt to migrate everything to the cloud does not work. So you would have to come up with these hybrid pipelines, which have been very successful so far. And SAS has released a connector mainly focused on for Databricks, like SAS Access Interface to Spark. And this connector can be used to push data from SAS to Databricks as needed, or read data from the Lakehouse platform to SAS for analytics purpose. On top of that, a lot of SQL queries that you write in SAS using proc SQL are now optimized to run directly in Databricks. So there's no data movement to get the data from the Lakehouse platform and then do the analysis. Rather, you could actually push your query to the Lakehouse platform and then have the compute there, right? So the next step is, okay, let me go back a second. In terms of, okay, sorry, yeah. So the two use cases that we are seeing that leverage the SAS Access Interface to Spark is this hybrid ETL, where you have large-scale data preparation, data quality, all the ETL work done in the Lakehouse, and then you read the data set which is needed after all the data prep is done. You read the data into SAS using this connector and perform the SAS tasks, like either building the models or doing any other SAS related tasks, and push the results back to the Lakehouse platform, which again are available for different other data workloads, right? And the second use case is model scoring. SAS has in database scoring, and also it has embedded process tools which support scoring your models directly where the data is. So you build a model in SAS and then push the model to Databricks, and then you score the model on large data sets available in Delta, and then store the results there. Again, doing these process involves setting up your systems, integrating. There's definitely help needed from different agencies, and then we can help in strategizing how you do this and laying down the right architecture elements in order to support these kind of hybrid pipelines. And a comment about the accelerators when it comes to migrating your ETL workloads is if you have to manually migrate your ETL code, so you would probably see for a decent amount of workload, an effort of 35 to 40 weeks, which includes assessment and then prioritizing those workloads and designing the migration strategy, and then actually doing the migration validation, and then all your cutover operations, right? Whereas what we want to do this support is by using acceleration tools or automation that can cut down the time by almost 3 to 4 times, right? Using those tools, now you have a one-to-one mapping of how a certain analytical task is performed in SAS versus what are the options available in the open source or in the PySpark world, and then the tool can automatically map and then do the conversion for you. So in terms of best practice, what we are seeing is doing a phased approach. First, trying to attack all the ETL related use cases, because frankly speaking, there's a lot of value that organizations can gain by doing all your processing using Apache Spark, ETL processing using Apache Spark, even connecting to different databases, or running your SQL workloads, or any type of macro functions, data manipulation and data quality related SAS patterns. You could leverage Databricks for that. And in most cases, we have a full migration possible. And wherever it's really challenging, like I said, you cannot offload those large jobs, what we've been seeing is make use of those connectors, whether it is SAS access to ODBC or even SAS access to Spark connectors. And that can give you an option to set up your pipelines where you could take advantage of the power of both the applications. And phase 2, which involves thinking about all your exploratory analysis, in cases where there is data in the Lakehouse platform and you want to directly allow your users, mainly business analysts or data scientists, to write SQL queries against the data. So you could then think about those workloads and then keep the data that's required for those workloads in the cloud in the Lakehouse. And then finally, the phase 3, where then you start looking at the statistical modeling. And frankly, in this stage, a majority of the workload has to remain in SAS, but there are cases where you could leverage the open source machine learning stat packages. Again, this has to be done on a case-by-case basis. And certain workloads certain models can be replaced, but not everything. So again, now the key takeaways that you could understand by now is migrating the data and ETL workloads to the right platform in the cloud can be really challenging. Not just like SAS, also our experience migrating Hadoop workloads or enterprise data warehouse workloads comes with a cost, and it needs to be a well-defined strategy in order to do that migration. And from a Databricks perspective, we try to provide a better set of features or better target state for almost all of your data engineering workloads, with an inbuilt integration and also a seamless experience if you want to do both data and analytics related tasks, right? And what we try to do is come up with some well-defined frameworks supported by accelerators that can accelerate these projects or migration projects, so you get to focus on your business value in a very short span of time. And so we have all the process tools and experience. And in terms of enablement, there's a lot of enablement offered by Databricks, and for users who are used to legacy tools in order to adopt the technology available in the cloud, and also map how they've been doing in the past versus what options they have available in the cloud platform, right? And then there's a lot of guidance and assistance that is being provided to implement the migration, right? So with this, I'll open up for any questions and any comments, or just one more slide you want to go before we open up for questions?
Yeah, so I guess, thanks, Satish. That was kind of the overview of data migrations to the cloud and why hybrid and cloud models really can enable your organization to deliver against their both business strategy and data strategy, and how both DataSentics and Databricks can work with you in order to plan that and then execute against it in a timely manner that delivers incremental business value. This is kind of required in order to give you the foundations of a platform that can allow you to deliver on your business use cases. And the next 3 sessions are going to cover these use cases here. So Bob, I didn't know if you wanted to say a few words on those sessions and the use cases. And if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to put the questions in the chat in the meantime.
Yeah, I just a very quick one. So wanted to thank you, the presenters, for a wonderful presentation and the webinar today. And for the next one that is coming in about 3 weeks from now on the 3rd of November, and again at the same time and 2 p.m. CET, we prepared for you the second of the 4 UI use cases supercharging your business, the risk, fraud, and the threat detection, where we look at how to predict anomalies in real time in your organizations and what impact that has on the top line as well as the bottom line. So on that note, I'll leave it for some of the questions, if there are any. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for making the time to join us at the call. And we'll leave it open for another minute or 2. I don't know, are you seeing any questions in the chat, Ali or Satish? Do we have?
Not yet. So yeah, guys, if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to type here. Someone's typing.
It's not me. So.
It's Bob just saying hi. I think from a housekeeping perspective, just while we're getting a question in, I believe the slides will be made available, as will the resources we mentioned during the process of the presentation. And I think when you receive that, there will also be the link to registering for the future events. And we also can make the recording available if there was any of the content that you wanted to dig in. Happy anybody who doesn't want to put their questions, if they're very specific to your organizations, if you reach out through the registration, happy to do follow-up sessions on a one-on-one basis with your organizations to understand where you are more specifically and the areas of interest.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Ali. Thanks for...
So someone is still typing, Bob, so sporadically.
I'm wondering, it was, I watched it yesterday, how far this can go, that apparently yesterday there was an international day of the 3 dots that you have when typing. So as you see them, it can be quite annoying when you ask a question of someone, would you like to go for lunch? And you ping the question, and then you see someone typing, and then the typing stops and the message does not come. So your brain starts spinning does it mean that the person is responding to me, or is he typing to somebody else if that somebody else wants to go for lunch with him? So
and all the while, Bob, you're getting more hungry and hungry, right? Because you're waiting on the response and you haven't gone for lunch.
Exactly.
So
here we go. Thanks,
we
Pavel, for the question. I hand it over to Satish.
Okay, question, let me read out the question. So what is your advice, start from scratch or migrate SAS codes? The best practice is to migrate SAS codes, because if you start from scratch, yes, in certain use cases, it'll give you an option to make any changes, but then looking at the volume, if you have lots and lots of SAS code that you want to migrate, lots and lots of jobs, right? Doing it from scratch wouldn't get you anywhere, right? It takes a long time by the time you try to migrate. But there are tools now available, or methods or frameworks available. Start with SAS codes and then try to get them into the cloud, and then fine tune or optimize those programs while in the cloud, right? That gives you a quick start to get to the cloud, and then later on build on things with the tools and tool set available in the cloud. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Do we have a slide with an email, or eventually, if there are any further questions, you can always ping the questions to me via LinkedIn, and I will channel you through to.
There's one question, Ellie.
Yeah. So what are the main benefits of Databricks when compared with Snowflake and Synapse? So if I'd taken a log of the number of times this question got asked of me, I would be in the very, very high numbers. So we get asked by organizations who are assessing different tooling, and Snowflake and Synapse very often come up. So Synapse, just for everybody's benefit, is a Microsoft Azure proposition, and Snowflake is a cloud-based enterprise data warehouse. And really, with both of these, across many of our customers, it isn't necessarily that Databricks is better. It is that large organizations will have a combination. So we have many architectural patterns that show you how Databricks and Snowflake, or Databricks and Synapse coexist. And going back to, I think, the general theme of this session, it's using the right tooling and the right technology for the right thing. So we've got some great benchmarking stats which show ETL, for example, being done in Databricks versus in Snowflake, and the performance and price gains you get using Databricks. But equally, there are some use cases where Snowflake is more performant. Similarly with Synapse, many of our customers are Azure Databricks customers, and the architectural patterns, there is a coexist again, because depending on use case by use case. However, if you do check out the third-party benchmarking that was done by Barcelona Supercomputing, really the key gains are in performance and in price because of the performance. Yes, so apologies, I'm not sure of the first name of the person asking the questions, but yes, I will pop my email address in the chat, and I can't send you those benchmarks, but I can do a screen share and go through them with you, and I'm happy to do that and share that with you. We have benchmarks that were done by third parties, and they compare Databricks to all of the kind of cloud native tooling, so be it EMR, Synapse, etc., Dataproc, and BigQuery on Google, and then more broadly Snowflake and other technologies. We're actually working, conscious we're at the top of the hour, but we're actually working with a few organizations where we're reviewing what they're using on some of these technologies, and how their spend profile with those technologies, what it looks like. And then we're doing a direct comparison of that versus Databricks. And what we're finding is those customers are fine-tuning what they're doing where, because they want to use both Snowflake, for example, and Databricks, but they want to maximize their return on investment across the two technologies. And so we can work with organizations in order to do that. And so you're actually getting more return on your investment. Conscious we're at the top of the hour. So were there any other questions? I've just pinged my email address in which actually is slightly wrong. That was autopilot from filling in forms. There we go. If you do have any questions around the benchmarking exercises or the third-party work that's been done, happy to take you through that. Bob, did you have anything else?
No, thank you. It was all just a warning in case you would have used the first address and the email bounces. Don't be worried. Ellie is with us still. Databricks. It's another email. On that note, I think thank you all very, very much for attending. Thank you all for spending time with us, and we're looking forward to seeing you and welcoming you at our next event on 3rd of November. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon, all of you.
Thank you.